Thanks very much. It's lovely to be here. I was all prepared to say, hello, North, but then I thought that might be a bit too much. But I could remind our Yorkshire friends here, particularly Yorkshire friends, that I'm a Tyke. Support Yorkshire Cricket Club. Now, you've heard a lot of important truths today. And truth, as you know, is a valuable commodity in our post-truth Cambridge Analytica world. And therefore, it's worth iterating those truths. One of them is, Brexit is not a done deal. The second is, and it's been implicit in a lot of what has been said so far, but very well worth making it explicit, and that is that the future of the UK is in the EU. Of that we can be 100% certain. And I'm going to tell you why. Since the referendum, the Remainer sentiment in the country has been growing. One thing we've learned is how many millions of us love the EU and want to be part of it. Yeah. And that is something which is increasing in strength all the time. The Remainer movements around the country, both nationally and locally, are growing in strength and growing in numbers, growing in organisation and in focus. And when you compare how more organised we are, how more determined we are, how here we are, nearly 2 years after the referendum, with larger numbers of people coming out, compare that to the mess that the Brexiters are making of something undeliverable, you can see one good reason, why we are going to be in the EU in the future, that our future is in the EU. But another reason is demographics, just demographics by themselves. We will stop Brexit, but if by some accident there is some shuffling, fudging, something or other, semi-Brexit that happens at some point in the next 18 months or 2 years, it will be reversed, and it won't take very long to reverse it either. And that fact is a really important fact, because the Brexiters are just wasting time. They're wasting our time, they're wasting our energy, they're doing harm, they're damaging our economy and our society and our country already. It's not that we're waiting for some Brexit to happen and then for businesses to leave and more unemployment to kick in and less money for public services. It's happening already. That's why it's so important to stop Brexit. Do that now. Don't wait for the moment when we reverse Brexit. Now, there is a gentleman standing over here, and you can see him, he's holding up the sign which says 52% equals democracy. Well, I earn my living as an educator, and I love an opportunity to do a little bit of educating. I want to remind that gentleman, because maybe he didn't pick up what Mr. Hazel said a moment ago, which is that the people who voted to leave in the referendum were 37% of that electorate. 37% of that electorate. And moreover, that electorate excluded people who had a really serious material interest in the outcome of the referendum. Our fellow EU citizens from elsewhere make their lives here, do their work here, bring their children up here, pay their taxes here, and they weren't given a voice. That is an outrage. The young people in our country, 16 and 17-year-olds, they're the ones whose whole future is affected by this outcome. They weren't given a voice. And it is absolutely shocking. You look at that word democracy and you ask yourself this question: why were our own British fellow citizens who live abroad, why weren't they given a voice? So all those three groups of people were denied a voice. And that restricted electorate, of that restricted electorate, 37% of them voted leave. So that lovely piece of cardboard there is a piece of BS. Moreover, let us just suppose that 52% of the entire electorate, including all our fellow EU citizens, 16, 17, supposing 52% of them had voted to leave, is that enough for a massive constitutional change? Is 52%, is the crudest form of majoritarianism going to drag all the other people in the country along with it without any further debate? And moreover, just remind me, will somebody please just remind me Where was the plan? Where was the roadmap? Where were the policies? Where were the impact assessments? Where were the details about what would happen if we left the EU on the 23rd of June 2016? Absolutely none. Now, let us imagine that we have Mr. Jacob Rees-Mogg among us. I like to call him Re-Smog. Take us back to Victorian smog, you know. And I asked Mr. Jacob Rees-Mogg, you, although actually we know your real motivation, which is you run this big hedge fund, and like a lot of rich people, you don't like taxes. You know, funny, if you just earn a sort of ordinary income, you kind of put up with your taxes, don't you? But when you're earning millions and you look at how much of them go to the Brexit government, you think to yourself, God, we need to cut taxes. That's kind of motivation. So that's his real motivation. But he will say what these leaders say. Let us take back sovereignty. Let us take back control of our borders. Let us not be ruled by a capital of a foreign country. That's what they say when they're looking at the EU. But then they hear a Scottish nationalist say, let us take back sovereignty. Let us take back control of our borders. Let us not be run by a foreign capital. And they say, no. You know what that's called? That's called hypocrisy. Because they don't mean it. They don't mean all that rubbish about sovereignty and all the rest. Who the hell, not even the People's Republic of China or the United States of America, has sovereignty in a globalized world where we're all so interconnected? It's just rubbish, it's just nonsense, it's hot air. And I think so many people, like that gentleman there with his big sign saying BS on it there, I would imagine that he has very, very passionate beliefs about the fact that people in Brussels are planning to get him personally, or that, you know, it's all a terrible thing for our country. But we know differently. We know differently. We know what a marvellous thing the EU is. And do you know what? It's so easy to prove. You've been told by all our colleagues in the Remainer movements how important it is that you talk to people. Talk to your friends, families, colleagues, talk to people on the street. Join Remainer groups. Get out there. Put the case. Write to your MPs, harass your MPs in their constituency offices. Make sure that they don't bat you away by saying, oh, well, you're not a member of my constituency. You just reply to them and say, you vote on laws that affect everybody in the country. You can jolly well listen to what I would like to present to you as a way of an argument. You do all these things. But here is a really powerful thing you can do. Challenge people to spend 4 minutes on YouTube. 4 minutes on YouTube. 2 minutes looking at some footage of Europe in 1945, and 2 minutes looking at some footage of this country in the 1970s. 3-day week, uncollected piles of rubbish on the streets, strikes everywhere, our Chancellor of the Exchequer going to the IMF begging for a loan. That's where we were, the sick man of Europe, before the EU really began to give us much of what we've got at the moment. And all the things that we have at the moment, like consumer protection, safe food, all the rights that our working people have, maternity leave and the rest, all the advantages that we've accrued from being part of this incredible project, this great, imaginative, idealistic, wonderful project, which is a Europe of cooperation, of progressive values, of protection of our civil liberties, of working together, of being friends. All that is something which is so well worth fighting for and staying in. So, it gives me real confidence. I feel happy. You know, on the morning after when I woke up, I thought, unprintable things. But then, very soon afterwards, I thought, you know what? We British people, we British Europeans are actually quite a sensible, pragmatic lot. That fact by itself will show that those among our fellow citizens in this country who voted Leave will come to their senses, and indeed we see a lot of evidence of that. We will see how much it is in our best interest and in the best interest of our friends in Europe that we be together in Europe. That's why I think the long-term future, the medium-term future, the near future of the UK is in Europe. But it depends on us keeping on fighting for this. It's absolutely wonderful to see these beautiful blue starry flags and the Union Jack and so many people out here saying we want to stay in Europe. And every single one of you is the tip of an iceberg of many, many, many hundreds of thousands, indeed millions of people in our country who want that. And that is why we will win. We'll stay in the EU.